What is Parkython? It is a hackathon for Parkinson's, helping people with Parkinson's to customize and build their own solutions by connecting with creatives, designers, and makers, as well as startups, researchers, and others building the next generation of technologies for Parkinson's. Welcome to Parkython.
Today's guest is Nuala Burke, clinical lead for the startup Walk with Path, which is building a line of interesting technologies to improve gait performance in individuals with Parkinson's as well as other neurological conditions. You might be familiar with their initial product, the Pathfinder. It's a shoe-worn, laser cueing system that dynamically assists individuals with Parkinson's suffering from freezing of gait. The company is now preparing for a fall release of a new product, Flove, a smart wearable insole that is capable of monitoring gait-related information while providing haptic cueing and vibratory stimulation. It's a very intelligent way to capture key information and provide some feedback in a very unobtrusive way. And just like their previous products, Flove incorporates some very elegant approaches to design and user experience. We hope you'll enjoy this lively conversation among Nuala and the Parkython team. Thank you.
We develop innovative wearable devices. Pathfinder is our very first medical device we've had on the market since 2017. This is Lisa, our founder, and she was actually inspired to create this device as her father has been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he was experiencing symptom freezing of gait. So as we know, freezing of gait affects about half the population of people with Parkinson's, and it's described as feeling like your feet are stuck on the ground. It makes it very difficult to initiate walking, and this is a big cause for things like falls and fractures in the Parkinson's community. Now, we discovered, and it's very heavily researched, that visual cueing is the preferred cueing technique at times for people with freezing of gait. And so this is using visual cues, just like in this image, to help someone alleviate that symptom and take their first step. So what is Pathfinder? It's a shoe attachment. As you can see here, it easily attaches onto the shoe, and then you set up the laser cueing device at what your normal step length would be. And then you have the ability to step over that green laser line, much like you would walk up and down a set of staircases. This is published in the Journal of Neurology, so it's proven to alleviate freezing of gait, improve shuffling, proven to increase confidence, and that is through a pilot study that we've actually done with users that are using Pathfinder, and then it also improves social engagement. So this is our pilot study that we did. We know that it increases the confidence in 92% of users, self-esteem in 100% of our users, and willingness to try new things in 85% of our users. This is one of our users here in Denmark, and the physiotherapist, the first time he saw him using Pathfinder, stated it was quite a miracle, and then he no longer was using his cane. And this is Matt Eagles, who's very well known in the Parkinson's community, actually was using Pathfinder to train his steps. And as you can see here, he managed to take 20,000 steps that day to get up a mountain. I can go into a little bit more detail of how it works, but this is just very gentle techniques of how we set it up. So you basically set up that green horizontal laser line in front of you, and you can adjust it as is needed. So if you've been shuffling a lot, you can obviously have it in as a smaller step and then over time extend it. There's some anecdotal evidence that it's been really helpful for starting to train people's gait again. So once set up, it's calibrated to the user's unique step length, and then we just tend to have people using it on their favorite pair of shoes, and then it's always just set up for them. So if we're looking at it from a sort of a bit of a global angle, so the use of Pathfinder will ultimately reduce someone's freezing of gait. It will reduce their amount of falls. They'll experience better psychosocial health as they're more engaged in the community. They have better mobility and confidence, a better quality of life, and we do hope that it will improve social inclusion. more likely after this COVID event that we're in at the moment. And then ultimately reduce costs on our healthcare system as well. So one thing that's important for our device is understanding if it's for the right person. So it's person with Parkinson's, but also if they're experiencing freezing of gait, shuffling, movement blockages. There's lots of different terms of how we all describe freezing of gait. So if you experience this, do you struggle to initiate walking? And one of our best screeners is walking up the stairs easier for you than across a blank floor, because then we know that that visual cue is really working for someone. Alongside, if someone places a foot in front of yours, does it help overcome that freezing? Because that's that visual cueing. Yeah, so. This one, the right person for you, or
I think it was mainly about the purchasing process.
Oh, okay. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, you can buy in confidence. We do have a 14-day money back, because that's quite important if people feel maybe this technology won't work for me. So we're quite confident that if you use those correct screening tools, that it would definitely work for you. But you're more than welcome to return it if it doesn't. And the NDIS low-cost assistive technology, this is specific to the Australian market. It's the National Disability Insurance Scheme. So it's actually a reimbursement strategy for in Australia.
Okay. That was one of some of my key questions for, even pricing models and how, especially with insurance, how if you're getting good traction with that in different parts of the world. And
yeah. So basically, we're a UK company, and we're also based in Copenhagen in Denmark. So in terms of the markets and the strategy for each one, as we know, healthcare systems are very complex. So here in Denmark and in Norway, it's luckily enough to be reimbursed by the healthcare system. That's a lot of that is based on knowing that it improves your quality of life. Those are the general factors they go for. Over in the UK, we have had a couple of sales into the NHS, but it's a strategy that we're always working towards and looking at how we can really bring this product to as many people with reimbursements as possible. As I just mentioned, there's the NDIS in Australia, and so we're starting to pilot that and see what's possible to get it reimbursed in the Australian market. The current markets that we sell in is the UK, all throughout Europe, Canada, Australia, Hong Kong and Taiwan, and we're hoping to launch in the US as soon as possible. We're just working on reimbursements and really understanding what the best way is of bringing our product to the US market.
Great.
That reimbursement situation is pretty critical. I mean, having successfully done it in Australia and now Denmark and Norway, you find that it's going to be easier? Do each new application become a little simpler? Could be like, we've done it successfully here, or is it more like, oh, here's a new problem with all of its own new issues? I mean, is the US going to be more difficult, or is it going to be easier, right?
I think there are so many different nuances to every healthcare system that, yes, you do have like all of your information, your scientific evidence, any health economics that you have, you've got everything collated to be able to provide. However, every application is different to every healthcare system. The US healthcare system is very, very different, of course, to over here in Europe. So we're excited to be looking into different coding strategies and what we can have reimbursed, but it's a very big tackle for a startup to take on.
Sure.
So at the moment, we're very open to looking into sponsorship and how we can first, bring it over into the US. We have a study at the Northern Arizona University, which is really exciting. It's underway. It's been slightly delayed with COVID, but we've had our first 5 participants there, and they're actually using Pathfinder in a gait lab. So what they're doing is they're having people who have freezing of gait walking without Pathfinder and then walking with Pathfinder. And then we have all of these researchers really analyzing their gait and how it changes.
Is that with Valerie Carter then over at NAU, or?
No, it's not with Valerie.
Oh.
It's with Linda.
Okay, yeah, I don't know her. I know Kyle. Did you work with Kyle at all? Kyle Winfrey?
No, I don't. It's with Linda Denny over there. And there's another occupational therapist. I would have to bring up her name.
Yeah,
But I was actually lucky enough to meet Linda at the World Parkinson's Congress in Kyoto. Yeah.
Sure.
So I was actually wearing them around the Congress, and then she approached me because she had seen the laser device somewhere, but wasn't sure where.
Yes.
And in terms of it being a medical device,
Mhm.
Pathfinder is a class 1 medical device.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, yeah. My question is more regarding the price, because if it's a medical device, it's easier to access. Maybe not so easy, but much accessible. But in the markets that are like low budget, like Portugal, it's hard to get the healthcare to even for a non-invasive device, it's hard to get it on the market. So are you planning to having a lower price, because the current price is hard for people in Portugal?
Yeah, and I do understand that we are launching our version 2 of this product at the start of next month. And basically what that is looking at stability of the device. And we've actually further stabilized it with the engineers who've been working on the R&D of that for the last 6 months. But what we've been discussing internally is having a global price of approximately $1,000 US. And then specific to different healthcare systems, it's really dependent on that reimbursement. So it really means that we need to be looking at the locations quite specifically in those markets of how we can best enter them, who we can partner with, if there are any foundations available that can help, improve the accessibility for people with Parkinson's. But you were very right in terms of, Portugal as opposed to Northern Europe in terms of accessibility is hugely different. And it shouldn't fall on the people who actually need that device to be suffering because of that.
Yeah, I have to defend my community here in Portugal, because $1,000 is something that is hard for many people here. So
absolutely,
and it's important. I mean, I'm not gonna. I also into tech, so I want solutions that are useful and
accessible.
affordable.
Yeah. Most
So
definitely.
Anything that I can.
Guys.
Yeah,
Right.
anything that we can do to have connections here in Portugal, or to accelerate that, please let me know, or John, because he has lots of contacts, or Kevin, so that we can make it more accessible, because honestly, at this price is complicated for people here in Portugal.
Absolutely, and it would be so nice if we could all sit down and have a brainstorm of this different strategies that we could put in place to try and make it more accessible. So we can definitely organize that. It added a lot of value to our business model, I believe, of how, we can create innovations that can absolutely be used by people worldwide and not for a select amount of people.
Yeah, I was curious again in terms of that. If you're thinking about, even initial go-to-market, maybe focusing more on physical therapists and doctors, where somebody can go, they can buy they can afford it, and it could be more like a rented model, or just go and for a session and do some experimenting, and then they get excited about it, and then that can kind of help grow some demand there. That's one thought that came to my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've definitely looked at that rental model sort of in terms of like a subscription model. And then they'll be using it over a period of time that they find value out of it. So that's something that we're always exploring. And we definitely, we've created an innovative solution. We also want to be innovative with the pricing structure to make sure that with the primary goal of increasing the amount of people worldwide using the product. So that's a fantastic idea, definitely.
Because I can imagine at scale, of course, your costs will come down quite a bit, and then it's always that kind of where do you start question.
Exactly, it really is about that, and how many different markets that we can be in, and making sure that we're addressing every market appropriately. Right. We're also creating the right marketing material per market, per language. So there's quite a lot involved in that, definitely. So yeah, you are able to purchase, like an end user can purchase it off our website now, and then you can purchase it from different distributors based on what market you're in at the moment.
Okay.
But a lot of the time it'll be referred or prescribed by a neurologist or a physiotherapist, sometimes an occupational therapist. And then also people are often, you know, online looking for solutions, and that's how they find Pathfinder.
If there was someone in the U.S., it's not available at this point, even if they had an interest. Is that correct?
They are able to contact us, absolutely, and we can provide them with product to be trialing and using for the time being. Yeah.
Very well. Very good. Yeah.
Definitely.
We're obviously the place that I think a lot of people come to, and I think we're also the hardest to get into. So even if you can get some people to build users and support in our area, that always helps. Although again, you're going to pray to the gods at CMS to provide reimbursement at some point. They're going to be ones that are going to decide for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, we have to get one for John.
Again?
For some classes, for Josefa to put on their classes.
Oh yeah, I think the thing I've noticed in Portugal though is that you got to make sure that the color of the light. You guys are so bright over there. We don't have that problem over here in Cincinnati.
I know there's so much sun in Portugal compared to Copenhagen. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, what's your opinion or feedback regarding when people are walking on the street with that? Do they feel comfortable? Is there any feedback regarding the reaction of other people? Do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally when people are walking on the street, they are very comfortable with it. Also the straps, they provide an extra level of friction. So people have actually found that that's been helpful sort of from a falls prevention perspective. But when they're walking down the street, yes, they can attract attention, of course, because they are green lasers in front of them. But from the pilot study, which we did, that we presented the abstract at the World Parkinson's Congress, when we're looking at psychosocial impact, is that a lot of people anecdotally were saying to us, look, it's actually a bit of a storytelling platform. You know, people might stop you in the street and ask, why are you wearing this? And it gives you an opportunity to say, well, look, I actually have Parkinson's, and this is helping me stay independent for as long as I can and be walking out on the street right now without, you know, freezing in the street, for example. One older man was telling me it was a nice way to interact with some, you know, neighborhood children for when he was walking. And of course, it helped to normalize his gait. And then he had these exciting lasers on him as well. And sometimes, of course, people will often always use it inside. And then when they're outside, you know, initially when they're first going outside with lasers, it's a different reaction. But they know that it's improving their ability to walk and be independent. So they feel that it's definitely worthwhile.
I mean, you could bundle it with a T-shirt that says, ask me about my laser shoes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
I was actually thinking of you putting a design more like a Star Trek thing that would make it more cool.
I'll talk to the engineers about that and see what we can do.
Something.
There's a story that Boss Bloom told about when they were testing a version that they were building that was, I think it was just a research project, and somebody wore it onto a bus and had an episode where they actually
exactly.
Like
that's when we decided that moving from red to green was a good idea because it was actually red back then. And yeah, the police, I believe, were called and thought that there was a potential issue at hand. But green, we think, is a positive color, green for go, right? And it's also the strongest possible laser that we're allowed to have in a device. So yeah, it's as strong as it can possibly be in terms of the CE marking that we have for it.
Is it continuous? Sorry, is it continuous, or does it can flash it like?
Yeah. So the interesting thing is that it's not continuous. We call it step synchronized. So there's an accelerometer inside it. So it means that every step that you take, when you lift your foot off the ground, or there's any movement detected, then the laser will go off. And then once you step onto the ground, then the laser will be shone in front of you. So with every step you take, there's an automatic line in front of you. So it means there's just always one line at a time, unless you're completely stationary with both feet. So it means you don't need to worry about activating any laser whatsoever. So it's very automatic. And we find the beauty of Pathfinder is that you don't need to be, you know, your hands are free, right? So you don't have to be multitasking at all. And then if you decide or need to one day use a cane or use a walker, you can still be wearing the laser shoes with all of those different mobility devices that you have.
Yeah, I remember when the laser cane came out, it was a nice innovation, but it requires you to wear a cane, which I don't, or use a cane, which I don't think a lot of people start off wanting to do, although many do when it becomes beneficial. But you're always having that, you're gonna, that's a push activated thing. I think Dr. Van Gerpen's one out of Florida, but this is much more, you put them on and they're now part of what you do instead of having to manage them. Is that what you're getting to, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we do know multitasking sometimes when you're also experiencing freezing can be a difficult thing to do. So it means that, you know, this is more of like a companion product. You know, it's always there. Those lines are there for you to rely on without having to do anything about it.
Yeah, very cool. Are you collecting any data with this device? Does it tell you how often or how long or anything in there that you're able to monitor?
We decided for version 2 not to make it connected. So it's not connected again at this stage because we feel like it's more of an intervention in the fact that we really primarily want this just to be used for people to help walk independently again. That lends itself nicely to what our second product is though, which is a connected insole. So our second product is something called Path Feel, and it's a connected insole. It has over 30 sensors all within one insole. So we're measuring different things like pressure, temperature, and we have an IMU in there as well. So it has the ability for any person to slide it into their shoes, and there's full wireless charging. So once it's in your shoes, you don't necessarily need to take it out again. And we have some pretty high-tech AI gait analytics going on. So we're analyzing how people are walking. And what this means is it lends itself really well to so many different areas. So we can be looking at how, for example, a disease progresses over time based on different things like walking speed, stride length, where you place the pressure on your foot, for example. And we have it in a study at the moment for people with something called diabetic peripheral neuropathy, which means that you have a sensation loss in the soles of your feet. So it means it's a little bit more difficult to be walking because you can't necessarily feel the floor. So what we're actually doing with our insole, the second component, apart from having the sensors, is that there's haptic feedback in it. So with every step that you take, it actually provides a haptic feedback into the soles of your feet. The scientific evidence now shows that this haptic feedback can be used to improve your balance and mobility in that diabetic population. And also for people with Parkinson's, we believe this haptic feedback will also be able to be used as a haptic cueing for overcoming freezing of gait as well. So that's what we're innovating, at the moment. So it's super exciting. It has, the ability for gait analytics, it has the ability for haptic interventions. We're also looking at the use of the entrainment theory. So using, these haptics to really help someone feel more relaxed, or if we increase the frequency of the haptic vibrations to make them feel more excited or concentrated on the subject. So that's what we're engaging with at the moment.
I could certainly see a crossover with neurologic music therapy with the rhythmic auditory stimulation and having that come all the way to the foot level. That'd be very interesting.
Exactly. And so that's the thing. So with Path Feel, we'll have the insole and it has that haptic ability. And then you can also have Pathfinder on top of it. So that means you'll be having the haptic and the visual cueing. And then alongside that, we'll also be analyzing your gait over time for very, very specific metrics. So we do think we have the opportunity in the future for looking at disease progression, personalizing your medicine, and working with neurologists to make sure we're giving people the best care they can have.
Really gets to some interesting stuff. I think Kevin, looks like you got something, right? I like the background monitoring, but I'm going to step back here because I'm a speech therapist, so I like to talk. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. Very excited about that. I think the feedback loops are really interesting to me because I'm kind of a quantified self geek, so I'm always trying to learn from whatever I can, the data I can collect, and how I'm progressing, in whatever direction, forward or backwards or sideways. I think I was curious how you're analyzing the I mean, how you're doing the analytics, you mentioned AI, but also I think eventually having that feedback loop into other systems.
Yeah.
If you're have an open API, for example, or you're thinking about that.
Yeah, so at the moment, I mean, I'm not on the technical side necessarily in the company, but what we're doing is we're working alongside Manchester Metropolitan University in our clinical study for diabetic peripheral neuropathy. And alongside that, it's going to be allowing us, and we're underway of validating all of our gait analytics against the Vicon system, which is the gait lab. So it's basically one of the gold standards for gait analytics. So all of the different data analytics that we're doing are going to be validated against that. Yeah. So then ultimately what we are aiming for is we actually have a smartphone app designed for a user. We've designed that in collaboration with many different healthcare professionals. And then we'll also have a dashboard available for healthcare professionals where they can easily be sent, an email, keeping them updated on how their patient is going, if simple things like their fall risks have changed. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be using lots of validated. So we've got an active state and a passive state. So with our active state, we can do many different validated tests, such as your timed up and go, which will give you a really nice understanding if you yourself or your patient is at risk of falls, for example. And then that can, help educate the person and then also provide this information to the healthcare professional. And then with the passive state, that will just be continuous data analytics about the person's gait. Much like, your iPhone or smartphone is tracking at the moment, different mobility. However, ours is so much more specific as it's, 2 insoles on your feet with in combination is over 60 sensors. Wow. So it's, very, very specific.
Great. I think even with DBS, we were talking last week, our young onset Parkinson's support group at UCSF, University of California, San Francisco.
Yeah.
They're talking about, the advances in DBS having a feedback loop, but it's really, I think, connecting that with your movement and your other conditions that it's going to be really powerful if you can have your DBS react to, the feedback you're getting from your feet, for example. I think that can be really powerful.
I mean, yeah, that would be amazing to look into in further research, most definitely.
Holding on DBS until they can do that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, but I mean, that is the thing about haptic feedback is that we still don't even truly understand how powerful and effective it can be in so many different areas. So that's something we're really, really researching heavily at the moment.
Great.
Yeah, I think the use of any of that kind of stimulation could be, we talked to another group of a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I remember seeing a group out of Stanford where it's all vibrational. They're vibrotactile rather than haptic, but same situation as far as making someone aware of a phenomenon without necessarily having to flash a light or having them look at a screen. I like that kind of.
Exactly. It keeps your other senses available, most definitely. And that's what we're quite excited by with our study in diabetic peripheral neuropathy. So any sensory loss, which also, people with Parkinson's and many other different conditions can experience. But if they're having this haptic feedback, the fact that it can actually help, we don't really understand exactly how yet, but whether it's proprioception, better understand your position in space, and ultimately improve your balance and walking ability is what we're aiming for.
You told something. Did you have wireless charge wirelessly?
Yeah.
So it's like what? It's like wireless. You just put it on something and it charges something. So like that.
Our primary aim, and when we were doing all of our user testing, was that we found it most effective that we didn't want to have to take the insoles out of the shoes, because who was going to ever get around to doing that? It's hard enough charging your phone at night. So what we decided was we wanted to be able to just put your shoes at the front door and be able to charge them that way. So what we've created was you put your shoes down on the ground anywhere, and then you just drop 2 magnets down onto your shoes and then plug it into a power point, and then it will instantly start charging.
Okay.
So the magnets will attach onto the insole, onto the heels of the shoe, and then they will start charging that way.
From the bottom. Okay, it charges. It's amazing because that's something that I value a lot. Just putting in the cables is something that's hazardous than having cables. So I just have one more question. regarding the I'm lost myself. No, I have to ask. How much you think it's going to cost, and when it will be available? I mean, I assume it's not available yet, right? Is it?
No, yeah. So this is a really interesting question, what the pricing is going to be. And I think that comes down to where the need is and what purpose that we are serving. So basically, we have an Insole innovated with sensors, right? So we could be a remote monitoring platform where we're not providing any intervention, and we're basically collecting gait analytics for the use of the person, for the use of a healthcare professional in a real world environment. We then, and that would be a class 1 medical device, we then have the opportunity for a class 2 medical device, which is when we have this haptic feedback going into the soles of someone's foot. And that would be more of an intervention perspective, because we'll be using the haptic feedback for an array of different reasons, whether it's for a person with diabetic peripheral neuropathy to improve their balance, whether it's the entrainment theory to calm a person down, whether it's, to alleviate freezing of gait, for example. So it's all different reasons of how we might use it, or you may use it for all of those reasons. And then as well as that, you have the sensors and the precision monitoring too. So it's different pricing. We're hoping actually initially to launch our first consumer product called Flow. And this is actually our Insole that we're launching in September. And it is purely releasing haptic feedback into the soles of your feet without the monitoring, because we wanted to launch a light version. The pricing structure is still being investigated. We're looking at hoping to launch first in the US. I don't necessarily want to say how much it'll be, as we still need to investigate it, but a few $100s. And what we're using that for is entrainment theory. We're creating relaxation sessions and breathing sessions on there as well, whilst also encouraging people to move as much as possible. So there's high intensity interval training techniques available on there as well, alongside the use of the haptics to increase blood flow and make your feet feel more energized. So I guess the long answer to your question is, what is the price going to be? When you're looking at it from a sort of innovative perspective, it really depends who the customer is going to be as to who the price, what the price will be.
Can I ask a little bit about your participation in the Mass Challenge? I just was on a webinar there a couple days ago. That's a really interesting program.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mass Challenge was basically a great way for us to spring into the US market. So we were partnered with the American Association of Retired People, AARP, where we worked for over a year on co-designing a lot of our products. So we went from entering Mass Challenge with 2 products to leaving Mass Challenge with 6 or 7 different products, all different tiers of our innovation and how what we're going to bring to market, basically. So yeah, it's an amazing accelerator program to go into. You can meet and partner with so many different people in the US, particularly for people who are coming in there from Europe. It's so important. And then co-designing with AARP, where we're innovating for people who are, of the older population, is absolutely crucial. I think there's going to be such a huge boom in age tech, and it's such a nice area to be part of, ensuring accessibility to technology. So yeah, it's a really exciting program to be in.
Do you have any estimate of the durability of the Insole?
Yeah, we're designing the durability of the Insole to be about 3 years. So it's quite a durable Insole that we have designed, and we've actually co-designed it with podiatrists as well, some leading podiatrists over in the UK, to make sure that the materials that we are selecting are the most durable and also the most comfortable, especially designed for the diabetic foot, which is quite a fragile foot to be working with. They're at a higher risk of things like ulcers. So we're really ensuring the comfort and the design is optimal.
It outlived most shoes by at least 2.5 years.
Pardon me?
I said it should outlive the shoes by a couple years at least.
No comment.
Yeah, exactly. We're also starting to think whether we might actually have different top layers on it as well. That'll be preferential for the end user of what they would like to choose. So we're still investigating that.
it's very much like buying a set of custom orthotics then, I guess, with that, the shelf life, how long they last, and then also with the design stuff, whether I want hot pink camouflage or whatever I'm going to put in my shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot
It's
of
all about personalizing things that people can't see.
yeah, well, it matters.
Why not?
Yeah,
exactly.
How we can help you guys. Obviously you're going to be at the next WPC. You saw the value in Kyoto.
Absolutely, we'll be there. It'll be so nice to meet everyone in person.
Yes.
And by then we will be meeting in person, most definitely.
Hey, I'm there. I'm not going to believe anything else except that we will be there in Barcelona. Actually, where Kevin's wife is your wife from Barcelona? I know she's Spanish.
Yes, that's her hometown. She grew up.
Oh, wow.
Sagrada Familia. So
yes,
we're already
going to be a tour guide.
Our summer there. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about WPC is they always pick great places. I first got diagnosed about 8 years ago, and then 6 months later found myself in Montreal, and that's where I met John initially.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Sarah Rigger introduced us, and it's her 50th birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Sarah.
Yes, happy birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, no, that was great. That opened my eyes so big to see all these people that were kind of pushing in the right direction rather than, like you get to a big web summit, which is where I met Rui, and it's fine, but there's 80,000 people and only 7 of them care about Parkinson's.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All different walks of life, and everyone is, aiming at the same mission at WPC. It's so nice. Of course, we're launching Flove consumer smart insole with vibration in September in the US. So it would be great to stay connected for that as well.
Okay, great.
That's something to certainly put on the calendar is if we can help you, we can get onto your website and we can see the materials you have and possibly get a hold of something. But September in America is probably where we're gearing towards, right?
Yeah, so in terms of Pathfinder, we're hoping to launch that in the US as soon as possible. And we're always looking for ambassadors anywhere in the world. So Ru, for example, I'd like to tick you off as our first Portuguese one. So we'd love it if anyone got in contact with us as well and reached out about Pathfinder. And then in terms of our smart insoles, Flove will be, it's on our website, and that'll be launching in the US in September.
All right.
Beauty. Well, Nuala, I really appreciate you making time. I know that scheduling was difficult.
We got there in the end.
Yeah. Yes. And now it's actually dark out. It was light when we started.
Yeah.
I'm looking. Okay. Well,
the nice dark Danish winter.
I tell you, I've been to your country a couple times, or been to Copenhagen specifically a couple times, but always in the summer. I don't think I'd want to be there in March.
But thank you all so much for your time. It's been such a nice conversation.
Likewise, Noel.
And really look forward to working with you all again and continuing into the future.
Yeah, thank you.
We need your help. If you are a startup or know of one who can help collaborate to find solutions for people with Parkinson's, we would love to hear from you. We're all in it together. Thank you.